then the deals got even bigger, turned into $1.2 million purchases. And the cool thing about land is sellers will finance it to you. That $1.2 million purchase, we still own it today.
Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. Now, if this is your first time listening to this show, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. But if you're a returning listener, we got a fun one for you today. But before I get into that, leave us a rating and review. We want to hear what you love about the show and anything we can do to make it work harder for your investing goals. Today, we are talking to Brent Bowers. The real estate landscape is changing, and you need to be prepared to take advantage of the emerging opportunities. That's why you should join me and other top real estate investors for the Midwest Real Estate Networking Summit, May 6th and 7th in Chicago. Now, you want to build the connections and partnerships that will help you scale your portfolio. Guest speakers include Jay Papasan, author of the #1 best-selling book, The One Thing; Ray Higdon, network marketing expert and author of Freakishly Effective Leadership for Network Marketers; and Tarl Yarber, Bigger Pockets contributor and the CEO of Fixated Real Estate. Now, join us for the Midwest Real Estate Networking Summit on May 6th and 7th in Chicago. Tickets are available right now at MidwestRESummit.com. Use promo code PODCAST to save on your ticket today. Again, go to MidwestRESummit.com and use promo code PODCAST to save on your ticket. Brent is the owner of the Land Sharks and is an investor and coach with a focus on buying and selling vacant land. Now, as an Army officer with over 8 years of service, Brent Bowers was spending a great deal of time away from his family, and he really wanted to focus on how real estate can help him grow. So while Brent invests in many different types of real estate, his favorite investment strategy deals with buying and selling vacant land. Now, he enjoys sharing his expertise in this area with his coaching clients and is passionate about helping other people find success in real estate investing, particularly in land investments. Let's welcome to the show, Brent Bowers.
Hey, welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Hey, Brent, thank you for coming on the show today. I went over your bio at a high level. Take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps.
No, I mean, you did a great job. Why ruin it? No, why I think we're all motivated towards pleasure or away from pain. I am motivated towards away from pain. That's how I found land investing. That is always, I feel like it's one of the best kept secrets. There's virtually no competition in this because we don't see an apartment complex that we can rent out or a mobile home park or a house we can flip. I know you guys are all multifamily investors, and just like I always thought to get in multifamily, like you had to be really smart and loaded with money. I mean, I always tell people I wish I was born rich rather than so darn good looking, but that doesn't help anybody listening to it. No, I'm just kidding. So land was just an easier asset class for me to get involved in as an Army officer. I was serving in the military, working 12, 13-hour days, deploying or preparing for combat deployment number 3, as well as you have kids as well. I just had my first baby. Marriage number 2. Unfortunately, the first one didn't work out because I was always gone. And I just wanted to build a financial fortress around me and my family that would give me time freedom, lifestyle freedom, and financial freedom. So that's why I'm here today. Really, I found land investing and I'm shouting it from the rooftops.
Well, I love it. You talked about, wishing you had, more money and being born rich instead of good looking so you could get into multifamily. And it's one of those things where I think many people feel that way. And then they learn about the different strategies of investing in multifamily, particularly syndication, working with other people so you can scale and take advantage of the different resources. But for you, land investing makes sense. And the thing that I like is everyone's different. You've got to find what works for you. And for you, it was land investing, particularly while you were in the military and traveling and not able to really be as present as you wanted to be. What was it about land investing that gave you flexibility since you weren't going to be kind of hands-on that attracted you to that asset class?
No, great question. I'll tell you, it was just the fact that one, I didn't have to meet the sellers of this land. So I started out, I heard a podcast just kind of similar to Multifamily Insights. I was searching for answers back in 2015. My wife was pregnant with our first baby, but when 2016 came, I was no longer gung-ho for the military because I knew that I was about to be away from home again for another year.
Mm.
And we used to deploy for 1 year at a time, but what they don't talk about is that year of preparation to be competent to deploy. So you're gone a lot before that. So I saw, like, in the last, I was in the military 8.5 years. I only slept in my own personal bed probably 3.5 of those years. I saw myself missing a lot of this brand new born baby's life. So funny thing, he was a year old and I only saw him for 2 months. And I was working so much, and I promise I'm going to answer the question about land, why land investing. I was working so much for the military, and I was haphazardly wholesaling houses. I had started in rentals and accumulated a lot of debt and buying rentals, and then the military sent me to college, and I went to a private college, so I had to wholesale houses to pay for college. So I would get the house under contract. The people would be a notice of default or list pendants, and I'd knock on the door or leave a note if they didn't answer. And I would get their house under contract at a discount. And I would work like crazy for 30 or 45 days to sign that contract and make a quick profit. Well, that worked okay for a little while. And then I went out to Colorado Springs with the military, and I tried to keep doing that, but it turned into postcards because I had to figure out a way to scale, because I can't be door knocking, in uniform, first of all. Plus, I didn't have time. I no longer had the time. And I was listening to podcasts, and I heard about a guy that was just doing land deals and doubling his money overnight. And I was like, okay, if half of what he said is true, this is still too good to be true. Probably, like, your listeners are probably going to think today, like, this guy's full of crap. So I literally started mailing postcards to people that were behind on their taxes for land. And it wasn't actually the tax delinquent list. It was a county held tax lien list. So this land was like not buildable, not efficient. It's not the multifamily land that I'm going to talk about that I've been getting under contract today. But it was basically called the county held tax lien list. And it was almost like throwing a worm into a pond that's drying up. These fish are starving. And it was like piranhas that was exploding. So they were calling me like, yeah, just take the land. Here's the price, blah, blah, blah. So I did a couple deals back to back, and I wasn't doubling my money. I was like 10xing it. And I would buy for $285, sell for $5,000. I bought one for $500, and then I sold it for $500 down and $500 a month for $5,000. And then I ran out of those deals really quickly. It's like 5 or 6 gone. Then I started mailing the whole county, and I'd buy it for $5 and sell it for $15. And I'd buy it for, get it under contract for $60,000 and assign it for $70,000. And then my biggest deal was actually one of my biggest deals still to this day. And I mean, the biggest, fastest profit deal was a $74,000 assignment fee by getting the lot under contract. It was it was approved for 2 fourplexes. Weird. And this developer was no longer building. He was 84 years old, wanted to enjoy golf and his wife for the remaining years he had. I assigned it to a cash buyer. It was in old Colorado City in Colorado Springs. And something clicked. I was like, holy crap, multifamily land is way more valuable than this garbage, inefficient, not buildable, not accessible land that I've been getting under contract. And then the deals got even bigger. It turned into $1.2 million purchases. And the cool thing about land is sellers will finance it to you. That $1.2 million purchase, we still own it today. It's approved for 34 townhomes or 84 apartments. It's on a 6-lane highway in Colorado Springs. Maybe someone's interested in buying it. I don't know. And it backs up to the city golf course. Well, this seller sold it to me for $1.2 million. And we put $600,000 down. I syndicated that money. Actually, I shouldn't say my acquisition manager did, Jen. We actually did a backward syndication. We basically made the phone calls out of our contacts off my cell phone, and then talked to an attorney, and she said, no, you need to do the 503 and blah, 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 ABCD. I still don't understand it. So we kind of reversed it, spent the 13 grand to make everything legal, because I guess no one really cares unless you lose money. So now we got this amazing asset, but multifamily land is so much more valuable than the desert weird lots that I was purchasing. And then we bought another piece of land that came with a 19-unit apartment complex. So it's crazy what this can turn into. It's just another tool in the tool belt. And I don't have a lot of multifamily. I am a partner in one 19-unit apartment complex. That's it. So I'm just a baby grasshopper when it comes to multifamily. However, the land, that's what I love talking about. We get paid 18 grand a month in payments every single month for our land, and we haven't even sold the big stuff yet. So
I
that's a
love it,
little,
man.
I know I went way over 2 minutes. I apologize.
No, it's
Got
fine, man.
carried
It's
away.
fine. Listen, I'm gonna recap a little bit of that because it was a
Yeah.
lot to take in, right? So, one, for you, lifestyle, you were in the military, you spent very little time, with your family. You mentioned just sleeping in your bed for only a few of years out of the time you were there. Only seeing your newborn son for 2 months out of the first year of his life, and that really forced you to say, "I need to make some changes." You were doing some real estate stuff, and I think this is the first key insight. You were in real estate. You were trying to wholesale some properties, but you started to not have as much time and you were in uniform. So you didn't want to be door knocking while you're in uniform. So that kind of led you to seek out some other options. And during that process, you learned about land investing. And I think the insight there is one, you were taking some sort of action. A lot of times people just listen, you listen to the podcast and you get inspired, but they don't actually do anything with it. And you were doing something, even if it wasn't the exact thing you wanted to do, but you were doing something. And then you took that same skill, the wholesaling skill that you had or was developing, and you then transferred that into land, right? So you started wholesaling land deals, starting with the county, and then ultimately starting to do bigger things. So I think that first thing is whatever you have, leverage that. If you're good at sales, if you're good at talking to people, if you're good at analyzing deals, use that to get some traction, to get some momentum. And then you can always build upon those skills. So really great insight from you there. You started talking about, making that transition from the tax lien county list into multifamily land. And I want to dig in here a little bit more because as investors, we're always looking for deals and opportunities, and new development can be somewhat risky for new investors. And you're not necessarily talking about developing the land yourself. It's an opportunity, but that's not really what you're talking about. You're talking about finding and investing in land that can be used to build multifamily on. Can you just give us some clarification of that distinction? How do you actually monetize that if you don't have cash flow coming in from the apartment building or the condos or the townhomes that are sitting on that land?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, let me just make sure I give this disclaimer. I did not only start going after multifamily land. It was it was a couple years before I realized some of the biggest land deals where I'm paid the most profitable came from those multifamily lots. So yeah, as far as how to cash flow on this land, one example, the $1.2 million piece I'm talking about right now, we could cash flow that today if we were willing, and we are. I've got multiple partners with this, and we're just the land's paid for free and clear, so there's no one in a rush really. We could start cash flowing right now if we sold it for the exact price that we paid for it and offered seller financing for 30 years at 12% interest and land. So banks really
Hold
don't
on,
finance it.
Brent. Yeah, I was gonna say, man, hello, because that's huge, right? You're basically saying not at a profit. You're not saying, hey, we bought this land at this and we're gonna sell it for 10% more, 20% more. You're saying the land at the value you paid for it, and instead of you trading it at a profit, just simply seller financing is one way you can cash flow and monetize that. So that's a huge
That's a good
concept
point.
that may be just really surprising to people who aren't as familiar. So you were about to keep
Yeah.
going about how that works. So tell us more.
No, thanks for stopping me because that's huge because the banks, they set up these 30-year mortgages where it is 100% in their favor. So if we did a 30-year mortgage on this just for $1.2 million, let's just say 12%. And because banks don't finance land, I mean, some do. It's hard to, they're few and far between. We would get $9,000 a month coming in. And the first 10 years is pretty much interest only on a 30-year fully amortized mortgage. If you look at a $200,000 mortgage at 6% interest, if you pay that for 30 years, over the lifetime, that you're going to pay back over 430,000 some on dollars. That's not 6%. That's compounding interest because you're paying 6% per annum on the amount that's still owed. So pretty much for the first 10 years, that's interest. I'm sorry, that you're pretty much paying interest only. So if we just held the financing for 10 months for a buyer, we would collect over $90,000 in interest and hardly anything would be taken off the principal. That's one strategy. The second strategy is we can allow someone to build pad sites, Dollar General, Applebee's, like they'll come in and lease your land for 50 years and allow you to keep the building after that. And we never have to sell this land. Another way I do it, I like to buy and sell, single family residence lots. I'll buy stuff in the rural areas where the land is a little bit cheaper, but less, less demand, less buildings going on. I'll buy this stuff at 20, 30, 40 cents on the dollar and turn around and sell it for 100 cents on the dollar. So build in profit that way, as well as charge interest. So one we just did a couple weeks ago, I should say about a week and a half ago, we bought it for 40,000, and we had a buyer the next day that gave us 5,000 down and an $85,000 mortgage. So we sold it to him for 90, basically. We bought it for 40, sold it for 90. Why would anybody sell their land at less than 50 cents on the dollar? I don't know. Why do people, I stopped asking why. Why do people take Rolexes and bring them to pawn shops? Why are there pawn shops like on every corner? Because speed and convenience, right? Same thing for land. These people inherited it. They bought it one day. They've been paying the taxes, all these things.
Man, great insights right there. Just recap that. You mentioned really three core ways of profiting on land today without selling the actual land. One, well, I guess the first one, you are selling land, but you're offering seller financing, and you can monetize that with higher interest rates because banks traditionally will not lend on land. So that's one way you can invest in land and get paid right away. The second thing is by offering these lots or pads to these big boxes, right? So if you have commercial or retail occupants, they might come in, rent the land or lease the land from you with a 30, 40, 50-year lease. They'll develop it. And then even when that lease is done, you still own the land. And now you own a building on top of that land as well. And then a third way is to simply go out there and sell it at a profit. You can still offer seller financing on top of that, and you can monetize it both different ways there. So lots of great information there about being able to do this. I think one of the things that stands out in the story that you were sharing is that you are finding these multifamily properties. You mentioned one that came with a lot that had the 19 unit. It's funny because most multifamily investors would say that the other way. I bought a 19 unit that came with a lot. You bought a lot that came with the 19 unit, right? So as you look at land deals and the potential to continue to own and invest in the actual brick and mortar, what processes are you using? I mean, are you analyzing this deal? Do you have a spreadsheet that you use? Like, how are you deciding whether or not a piece of land is a good value or a good investment?
Yeah, it's really easy. Cap rates and all that. I don't understand them. I really don't. I have to do the whole backwards planning. All right, so we're gonna get $1,000 a month for the rent. The mortgage is $800 a month, and then got to figure out these capital expense. Nope, that deal won't work. But land, it's so much easier. I just look at what other land is selling for on the MLS or LoopNet, or let's make it even easier. We all have access to Redfin and Zillow. Let's just say that you're looking for land in Cincinnati, or let's just say you come across a piece of land in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's a quarter acre, and you go to redfin.com and put in that address, or just put in an address next door or close by, and look at that map. I want you to then go to filters and go to sold. Like, we're just really looking at what's sold. Like, it doesn't matter what people list things at, like, because you can ask for one thing, get another, but you look at what's sold, and then you scroll down a little bit more in the filter section, and then click land, and you scroll down just a little bit more and click, the last 90 days, 3 months. And you're going to see the red dots if anything's sold. If nothing's sold, you're going to have to go back further, which is a little scary right now, because I think the real estate prices are coming down. Land too, because builders' confidence is a little low right now. And you can do the same thing with Zillow. It's the Zillow yellow dot test. So I find that there's a half acre that sold 3 blocks from your subject property. It's also a half acre sold 2.5 months ago for 30,000, and then another one over here sold for 35, another one over here sold for 25. So you just add all 3 of those numbers up, 25, 30, 35, and divide it by 3. That's your average price for a half acre lot in that city block of Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm not like doing the whole county, because land could vary, across the railroad tracks on this side of like Florida. You got to be careful, because like this has got a waterfront, AKA someone dug a lake. Like, come on. So waterfront lots, and I'm mailing Palm Beach County right now. I did an example the other day. Waterfront lots sold for $155 a square foot. And then the other side sold for $75 a square foot. Same square foot, same neighborhood. You got to be careful with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, good tips there. So you can go and find this information, Zillow, Redfin, LoopNet, any place that has housing sales information. Typically, you can find the land sale information as well, reverse engineer that. Excellent tips. If you are looking to figure out what the land value is for a particular area, or at least a submarket in there, you can go and use those resources that Brent mentioned and go in and find what the average land is. And sometimes they'll have it in there and you can just populate that information, it pops out. So really good tips if you're looking to figure out what that information is. The other piece of the puzzle is being able to find and negotiate that deal. So I know that you've got that wholesaler background. You're able to kind of find those opportunities, but just give us some high level,
Yeah.
tips. I mean, I assume you're just not, calling everybody and waiting to see who's going to sell their land. So how do you go about finding the land and figuring out which ones are willing to sell at a great price?
Now we got to remember that lifestyle business. Why do we get buy rentals? Is because we want that ATM machine to churn for the next 30 year or 27 and a half until we literally depreciate that entire building and get all those tax benefits and sell it and trade up. I want the same thing with my land business, but I try and do it on the front end too. Because all my we have 79 mortgages, 79 notes where we sold the land. Roughly that's grosses us about 18 grand a month coming in. And these guys never call. They never complain about their toilets not flushing or the air conditioner broke or the heater went out. But we want to do the same thing on the front end. So we send out these pieces of paper. They're called purchase agreements. I call them land offer letters or LOLs because every time we get one back, I'm like, laugh out loud. I can't believe they just signed this deal, and they'll email it to us. They'll fax it. Yes, fax. I'm not crazy. We get faxes. Myfax.com costs us $10 a month. It's worth it. They'll mail it back. Sometimes they'll call just to make sure we're legit, or they want to cuss us out because they're having a bad day or something and they don't like the offer. But right now it's like I'm negotiating with one lady via email, and it's just so chill. And these things come back. There's no negotiation hardly. I just said I was negotiating via email, but she wants a little bit more, and I probably could give it to her, but I don't want seller's remorse if I agree right away to that price. So we will kind of negotiate these, see if they'll take any less, but most of the time we will pay what we send them this land offer letter if it was correct. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we offer $122 a square foot when it's really selling for $75 a square foot because we took the lake comps. But these are the easiest things to ever negotiate because they come back signed, and it either works or it doesn't. It's not like a single family residence or a multifamily where it's like you think it's a B property and it's really a D minus, and it's like, oh my goodness gracious, this guy let everyone in that had $500 and could sign their name. That was our 19plex, by the way. We kicked them all out, then replaced the foundation, and we figured out that in commercial, you need to have an architect and an engineer before you go in there and start swinging hammers. So we did it completely backwards, but no, that's it. I probably went too long on that answer.
No, listen, I appreciate you sharing that because when you're sending out these offers, you love the LOL, right? You mentioned that, you're sending out these LOLs, these land offer letters. A lot of times they come back signed, you get a good laugh out of that. But it's working and you're using your data. You're looking at, again, Zillow, Redfin, these different websites to figure out how much are these properties selling for? How much is this land selling for? And using that to gauge kind of what your offer is. Do you have like a standard number that you use? For instance, if you figure out the land is let's just say $100 a square foot, are you taking 20% off of that with your offer, or what kind of range do you use when you put out that initial offer?
I've tried so many different things. I've tried 20 cents on the dollar. We used to get away with it back in like 2016 when land was not cool at all. When it was definitely a buyer's market. And then like 2019 after COVID, like everyone couldn't get land fast enough. So I had to go up to like 70 cents on the dollar, but I do a little differently now. I'm always testing and tweaking, and what works today might not work so well tomorrow. But I will take it. Let's just say it's going for about $100,000 for that half acre lot in Cincinnati. I'm completely making that up, by the way. Um, and I want to make $10,000 profit per deal. And I know on average, I got to send about 702 land offer letters to get that to happen. And I spend about 82 cents a letter. So roughly I'm spending less than $600 to make 10 grand. And so the numbers work. So that $100,000 lot is trading for about 100,000 on average. I want to make 10 grand. So I'm going to bump that down to 90. And then I got to figure the realtor too. We're going to pay the realtor if we use a realtor. And most of the time we do, we use a land specialist realtor, not just any old real estate agent, but one that's selling the land in that area, because they're going to know those streets way better than I am sitting in Florida. So figure 6% for that realtor. So that's 6 grand. So we're down at 90. Now take another 6 grand off. So what is that? 84,000. And then I want to be the cheapest priced piece of land on the MLS. So they're looking at all these lots. This one's 100. This one's 100. Oh, this one's 90. It's not like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. This one has a pool. This one has granite. Honey, which one do we want? No, this one has dirt. This one has dirt. It's 10,000 less. We're taking the one that's less. So I build that price in, another 10 grand off. So we're sitting at 74,000. And then let's figure closing costs, about $1,000, right? Maybe another 1,000 for back taxes. So we're now about $72,000 on a $100,000 lot. So that's 72 cents on the dollar. So I can go in when I pull my list from PropStream. I pull that list, I'm offering 72 cents on the dollar. So $72 a square foot. And I just put in that little multiplication factor, and my software program just blasts those out. I can send out 1,500 offers in 2 minutes doing that at $72 a square foot. But I'm doing it micro. I'm doing it by the neighborhood. I used to mail the whole county at once. Boy, you're talking about some problems there. Like only 1% of your list would be correct that way.
Yeah, I love it, man. Do you you mentioned doing it by the neighborhood, just high level. I don't need it specific, but just high level. What are some of the parameters or some of those issues that you'd want to avoid? Is it based on household income, or is it any other specific restrictions that you're looking out for?
Oh man, you're getting overcomplicated for a land investor. Like I'm a knuckle dragger. I wasn't smart enough to join the Air Force. I had to join the Army. So no, I don't even know what you're talking about when it comes to household income. I'm looking for land that's selling in demand, because I don't want to. I used to get land under contract in the desert for like pennies on the dollar, but I had one problem. It was really hard to sell that stuff at like I could like 0% financing, $200 a month, 0% 25, give me just anything per month. I don't care. But if you go where there's demands, like the land is just selling and turning, and you get some of that land that's in demand, let's just say those half-acre parcels is what's selling in the last 3 months. There's been 20 of them that sold. Well, I get a half-acre parcel and I price it less, it's going to sell. I don't know about household income, none of that stuff.
Yeah. I love it, man. Thanks for clarifying that. And I think too, it just illustrates as different as land investing can feel, it doesn't have to be very complex. And sometimes things that are new and different feel strange, but there's some simplicity to it. And I think that if you understand multifamily investing, you probably can figure out land investing. For that investor who is committed to building multifamily and can use this maybe as a way to maybe get into developing their own properties, what would you say to them? So that person like you came across the one property you mentioned where you could build 34 townhomes. That feels like an ideal opportunity for many investors. Like, wow, if I could find some land where I could build multifamily, now I'm putting the best of both worlds together. Any tips or advice or cautions that you would give that person?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I have a partnership with a guy, and he builds single family homes, and we've gotten really good at buying $1,000 lots in an area where we can sell these houses for 355,000, and it takes us about 250,000 to build the house. So I partner with him, and we have a general contractor that builds these spec homes for us, and we buy the lot for 1,000, put 250 in to build it, and sell it for 355. And that same contractor builds for another gentleman that buys land that he can build fourplexes on in the same area. And that's what he's doing. He'll buy the land as cheap as possible. And then turn around and put these fourplexes. Sometimes he'll sell them, sometimes he'll keep them. He's got kind of a little bit of shift in his portfolio, but here's the tips and the trick is you gotta, like, you never know what prices are going to be 90 days from now as far as what lumber did, man.
Yeah.
One of the spec houses I built a couple years ago, when lumber skyrocketed, I don't even know if it was a couple years ago, it was like a year and a half ago. The joke was, hey, I got this piece of plywood in the back of my truck. I paid cash for it and I feel wealthy. But lumber skyrocketed and we had pre-sold the house. Big mistake pre-selling it. And I was like, oh, we got our profit. Oh, it all went away because all the prices, everything, like the garage door went from like $1,000 to almost $4,000 at that time. What the heck? The only way we made money, we actually split 20 grand, me and my partner. We had profit 20 grand. It's because we bought that lot that should have been worth like 30,000 for $1,000. So buy your land right. And obviously you can, go to Turkey and Mexico and start getting trade lines where you can get cheaper pipe and all this stuff. But it's just easier to buy the land at a discount.
I love it, Brent. That's a great tip, and I think it's just another tool in the tool belt for investors. So just keep that in mind as something else you could tap into if you are looking to, find more opportunities to develop, or to invest in multifamily. Think about investing in land. Brent, I know you've got some coaching programs and some materials that are available. I'm assuming folks can find that at your website, thelandsharks.com. Can you just give us a little bit of a high level, an overview of what investors can expect or learn from working with you more?
No, thanks for asking me. So basically what we built a Land Sharks community with Wholesaling Inc. And it's a series of video action steps, no fluff, no BS. Like, it's not stories like I just told on this podcast. It's, hey, here's how you go to Redfin. Here's how you pull the land ownerships. Here's how you find the list. Here's how you mail that list. And then once you get it under contract, here's what you say. Here's how you sell it. And then we do multiple support calls a week, as well as I have an assistant coach that answers questions all day long. Ultimately, I'm really holding your hand to build you a land investing business that will serve you and your family and eventually others.
I love it, Brent. We're going to make sure we link to that in the show notes, and please check that out if you're interested in learning more about investing in land. Brent, let's go to our round of insights. Are you ready?
All right.
Give me a failure or an apparent failure that set you up for later success.
So the first marriage that I lost, I like to say it's because I was never home, but I was always just gunning for the next goal. I would literally complete one goal that day and have the next one on the radar immediately. And that ultimately made me lose my first wife. Like, she left, moved in with another man on my second deployment. And I thought life was over. But ultimately it just made me hunker down, work harder, realize, reflect. Like Tony Robbins says, when you fail, you ponder. When you're winning and making money, you party. So, it's everything happens for a reason, and every failure sets us up for another success down the road, because like my life has just turned into like this unbelievable fairy tale now.
There you go, man. All right, give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
You know what? The landsharkslist.com. It's basically a 7-day free trial to PropStream. Honestly, I use PropStream so much. I pull 10,000 records a month. It's like $99 a month. But I can pull land or houses or multifamily or notice of default. That resource has made me millions of dollars.
There you go. All right, give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
Oh, the last couple months is Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. I'll tell you, I read about this book a couple years ago when my business was still on training wheels. And if I would have implemented it when I read it, it means so much now that I've ran millions and millions of dollars through my bank accounts. If I would have just kept more for profit, more for taxes, like I wouldn't be freaking out every April having to buy a house or a multifamily building to depreciate and cost segregate. So Profit First.
There we go. All right, give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
You know what? Just going to the gym. I'll tell you, like my gym has turned into my little, like I find private lenders there. A friend of mine took me up in his airplane. Well, they became friends in the gym. He took me out in his airplane on Saturday, took my kids up. They flew it. I flew it. I don't know if that's legal or not. So maybe we better edit that. I'm just kidding. Um, just going to the gym every single day. Well, Monday through Friday. When we drop my kids off, me and my wife will go to the gym or she'll go walk with her friend. Just having that habit, you know.
Give me your number one insight for land investing.
Take action. You know, you're never gonna be 100% right 100% of the time. If you're not sure, then get a bigger discount.
Excellent. All right, let's lighten the mood. You are out there in Florida, sunny weather. Give me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Oh, you know what? The Tides restaurant in Vero Beach, Florida. That's where I met my beautiful wife. She actually used to work there, and still my favorite place to go. Maybe not hers, but no, it's our favorite place to go. It's a little bit pricier than most places, but it is beachside, and it's just a great atmosphere. And yeah, the Tides restaurant.
The Tide?
Like the tides rolling in, rolling out. The
Okay, the
Tides,
Tides restaurant.
plural.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. We'll make sure we check that out next time we're in that area for sure.
There
Well,
you go.
listen,
Call me.
Brent,
I'll come.
all right. Listen, you gave us a lot of great information. I appreciate you being open and honest and sharing kind of your journey, some of the challenges you faced with your first relationship, wanting to be more present as a father with your kids and making some transitions from what you were doing investing wise and really finding land investment as a tool and a resource to help you reach those goals. You talked about how to find deals, how to structure deals, how to figure out what you should be offering for these deals by reverse engineering that process, but also the simplicity that it can be when it comes to land investing, understanding what those exit strategies are, but not necessarily having to, underwrite 50,000 different things and analyzing a whole bunch of different metrics, but just really understanding how much money do I need to make? What are the interest rates that I can serve and just structure the deal that way? So again, if anybody wants to learn more, you've got the landsharks.com. You have a lot of information available there. So we'll make sure we link to that. And then we'll also put that LOL, that letter or that land offer letter in our show notes so people can access that if they want to check it out. Brent, I want to thank you again for coming on the show today. Hope you have a good one and we look forward to staying in touch. Take care.
God bless, John.